What is happening, you guys? It's Fry coming at you with some New World PvP content. Today I am talking about the Rapier Firestaff build that I discovered towards the end of closed beta, and I have been having so much fun with this build. I think it's going to be my main build, and I want to start creating some content about improving with the build. I have improved so much towards the end of closed beta, and I think I found some common mistakes that I found myself and a lot of other people doing, as well as some playstyle guides and some specific matchups with certain weapons, some tips and tricks towards those comps. I think I got a lot of good content that you guys are really going to enjoy. So really quickly, the game plan is I'm going to really briefly go over the build, explain to you how I set it up, and then we'll dive right into some clips about some specific matchups and go over the mistakes and how to avoid them. Alright, diving right into the build. I'm going to do this really quickly because I don't know what they're going to change. So it's a glass cannon build. You want at least 50 points in constitution, then you really want to start stacking intelligence. Once you start getting up there in levels, you can probably get up to 100 or more constitution, maybe 150, but more so on the intelligence side because the playstyle of this build is not getting hit and just dealing free damage. Starting with the Rapier, this is my Rapier build, fully decked out in Grace. All of the abilities are fully maxed out. These two passives in Blood are no-brainers, and yeah, this seems like the best setup. 10%, I'm going for damage over extra stamina on any hit. I mean, stamina comes back so quickly already when you drain it. I'm using my stamina mostly evasively. Like I said, the point of this glass cannon build is to not get hit, so that's the Grace setup I'm running. And then the Firestaff, this is by far the best best build I've found for PvP. Rocking Pillar of Fire with no upgrades, which gets you a lot more passive attributes. Fireball I do have upgraded just for this cooldown reduction plus extra mana. I really do try to nail the Fireball every time, so it tends to help out. And the 7% of all Firestaff cooldowns is pretty nice. This Runes of Helios is going to cause a lot more damage in certain situations. Yeah, you're not always going to be able to stand in it when it procs in PvP, but some situations you're just going to be able to smack people really hard because of this. So definitely worth throwing in there. Big damage boost when it does work out. And a 30-second cooldown, not too shabby. Lasting for 7 seconds, not to mention you can kind of kite around your Fireball AoE once you're doing it anyway. So keeping it brief, let's dive right into some clips and start going over the playstyle and common mistakes, the fun stuff. Alright, jumping into this first clip, I'm doing against the Battle Axe Hatchet combo. This is probably the strongest comp in the closed beta. Who knows what they're going to change. So some key points to go over with this. Yeah, obviously being that it's double melee, your ideal situation is going to be just pumping Firestaff damage in at a distance where they can't reach you, right? There's two playstyles I've seen a lot of people using with the Hatchet specifically. One is what Lolly's doing here. When they pop the Berserk, they just kind of run away and try to take no damage while they're healing. This is a little bit easier to deal with considering they're not doing any damage to you, and you can just sit there and pump heavy attacks and fireballs at them without taking any damage at all, and try to counteract the healing. And it, yeah. Other strat is when they use the speed buff with the Berserk, it comes off cooldown so fast, it's kind of ridiculous honestly. But the other strat I've seen people do, which is much more painful to deal with, is when they Berserk rush you down while they have the Berserk up and they're healing and they're also doing damage to you. This is a little easier to dual damage to counteract the healing, but if you just kind of whip your Rapier out and try to time your evades and light attack spam, can really nullify the healing that they're doing. And really out damage the Hatchet damage really well. So getting into some of the first mistakes that I'm making, really here when I get this person low, common mistake I see myself and a lot of people do is you get kind of greedy for the kill. You stop worrying so much about kiting and you get a little extra antsy to finish them off. And like right here, I am thinking so much about just getting that tiny last bit of damage that she just smacks me from like 30% health to 0. This is a glass cannon build, you can't be doing that. I really needed to be pulling out the Rapier and finishing her off in some other way. Another key topic about this build I've noticed is if somebody is playing like she is, running around with the hatchets just to heal and trying to avoid your stuff, don't try to chase them down with the rapier. With this build, and all decked out in grace, you don't have a lot of range on your attacks, so you really aren't going to be able to hit them very well if they're just running away. This also applies to any world PvP situations where they're just like running away from you. Don't try to chase them down. You can chase them with the rapier and try to get like a fletch interrupt, like fletch light attack, evade light attack combo on them really quickly as burst, but then when that combo's not up, and you can use it to kind of close the gap, then you're gonna find more consistency when you bust out your Firestaff and just start shooting them, because it just got the range to hit them even though they're running away from you. So here, kind of a similar mistake. I get a little bit too antsy for the kill once again, and yeah, like, it's kind of ridiculous, but she manages to finish me off again with like no health. I procced that cheat death, but the berserker healing is kind of nuts, and I've messed up the timing on the riposte and just got crushed. Kind of frustrating, but that is just the way it goes. So diving into one last duel. Yeah, I want to talk at this one about your options out of Gravity Well. So your best two options are going to be eating some mana food here. Your best two options are going to be either fletch away to create distance and get out of the Gravity Well, or use your riposte to nullify whatever damage they're putting into you, and hit them with the stun, hopefully, and put out some damage yourself while they're stunned. And they'll be stunned for, if you hit the stun, they'll be stunned for the rest of the Gravity Well pretty much in most cases. So for that reason, those being the best two options, you really want to try to keep one of those off of cooldown at all times. Unless they just use Gravity Well, you can obviously use whichever one's off of cooldown to get out of it. That's kind of why you're saving them, right? But if you ever decide to switch to the Rapier and go aggressive, you really want to make sure that you don't use both Fletchy and Riposte aggressively, which is your counter. Because if they decide to turn around and smack you with a Gravity Well, you are just shit out of luck. If they do hit you with the Gravity Well and both of those are on cooldown, your best next two options are either to switch to Firestaff and burn out of the situation, which has a big cast time, so you're going to probably take some damage if they're close enough to you, or try to time your evade to dodge the incoming attack. And I think you can actually evade out of the Gravity Well too if you are space it properly and aim it correctly. So something to consider as your backup plans. Another thing about burning out away from Gravity Well, if there's not right on top of you and they're just running at you into melee range, then it's a really good idea actually to cast Burnout right at a perfect distance, because you can use it aggressively, hit them with it, and then create distance behind them the other way and force them to have to turn around and chase you again. And then you're free from the Gravity Well constraints as well. So definitely a little bit better than just fletching out of it if they're not right on top of you. But if they're really close and you just want to escape, fletch is the way to go. So here, this is exactly what I was talking about. I'm going to back it up and go over this play here. I waste my riposte there. It was just a terrible riposte. I thought she was going to swing. I'm chasing, and then because I used my riposte, I should really be thinking to save my fletch, especially because she hasn't used Gravity Well in some time. It's coming back off cooldown. It may even be off cooldown right now. Honestly, she's just trying to run away with the heal. I should just be switching to Firestaff and pumping out range damage at her right now. But I do make the mistake of using the fletch, then she turns around, and what do you know, 180 Gravity Wells me, and now I'm shit out of luck. And I do decide to switch to my Firestaff and go for the burnout, and I'd eat some damage here from like full health. I take a hit, and another huge hit. So look at that, from full health all the way down to half health. I don't know if they're going to fix that double hit bug on the second heavy attack, so probably won't chunk that hard, but with the glass cannon build, that's just a huge mistake that you should really be avoiding at all costs. You want to keep one of those abilities up in case you do get Gravity Welled from close range. Luckily, we were doing so well up until that point, and we continue to play well afterwards, that we do manage to proc her cheat death, hit her with the heavy to nullify the Hatchet healing, and then we finish her off with a Pillar of Fire once the cheat death effect has worn off. So a good result there, but still a nice example of what not to do as far as being aggressive with the Rapier. Rapier, especially against melees, you want to think of it more defensively than offensively. Because ideally against any melee setup, you want to be at a range, shooting your Firestaff abilities, pumping free damage where they can't hit you at all with their melee weapons. Alright, let's move on to the next clip. Alright, so in this clip, I'm fighting against my boy Cap'n Crunch. He is rocking the Spear Rapier build. He's got it set up to optimally punish all the mistakes I make in this duel, subbing out the Javelin throw for the bleed. So here's some few points to talk about. Really quickly, I'll go over the setup that you want to be thinking about going into this, that I clearly wasn't for this. When they are getting close, you just want to kite them like a mofo. Anyone with a spear is exceptionally dangerous because the CC comes out so fast with the spear, and they just pump out so much free damage on you that you really just, the goal is to never ever get hit with the CC stun. So if they are ever getting within range and have that spear in their hand, you really need to have your rapier out and be ready to either preemptively riposte and then start using the evade trick with your triple dodge roll. So if you don't know what that means, evade being beefed up gives you 20 stamina on use, so you can use a light roll, evade immediately, then roll 2 more times. You get like a triple roll with an evade in the middle, and it gets you a lot of distance covered really quickly. And if you animation cancel everything into itself, you're invulnerable for the entire sequence. And then if you animation cancel the last one by just sheathing or unsheathing your weapon or switching weapons, probably to the Firestaff would be good, then you come out of that last roll running as well, and you can, it's a great way to create distance. I wouldn't even think of trying to react to their abilities with their posts because they come out so quickly that it's just tough. So here I make the first mistake of holding my Firestaff out. I go for some damage again even after I get stunned, and I end up eating the sweep at max range. Now that his CC was on cooldown, I did try to pull out the rapier and trade some damage, but here I messed up my burnout and he read where I was going to go. And again, I'm in close range and I'm trying to pump a fireball into him while he's like sweeping me. So you can see this is good. This is the position you want to be at. Now that he's close, I shouldn't be trying to pillar of fire trick that quickly. I should immediately be rolling and creating distance. Like, you really need to just kite. Turn around, pop a few quick free shots, and go right back into kiting. You need to stay away. So at this point, I'm already dead. He's got the bleeds on me. All he has to do is hide around the corner. I did manage to trade good damage with him, but it's just not, you can't trade damage with this build. It's just too squishy. So yeah, a lot of mistakes made really quickly there, and when against a spear, he will punish you so heavily, so quickly. Spear, like, against battle axes and warhammers, you can really kind of pump in some damage while they're close to you, and get a little cheeky with it. Against a spear, you cannot do that, because even if they're half close, about to be in melee range, if they happen to time a kick on you unexpectedly or hit you with a sweep at max range, you are now knocked on your ass and you are just eating a bunch of damage and you're not dishing any out in return. So pretty simple. If you do start kiting them really well and you prioritize staying at a distance to create as much distance as possible, maybe use a burnout straight away from them, don't even try to hit them with it, and then start pumping free damage and go right into kiting, then it is pretty easy to deal with, I would say, as long as you're not getting hit by the spear CC. Like, the only thing you'd have to worry about at that point is the javelin throw, which a lot of spear users I know they like. It's good against melees as a get off me tool, and it's good against ranged tools like this as a way to knock them on their ass from a distance and kind of close the gap. But that having been said, if you do play fully kitey, I think it is a pretty easy setup to deal with. But as you can see, any mistakes you make are very, very heavily punished. So a great example there. Let's move on to the next clip. Alright, in this next clip we are fighting against a Battle Axe Warhammer user. This is obviously going to be very similar to the Battle Axe Hatchet, not as OP because they don't have the Hatchet heal. Things to look out for are they have a lot more stuns and CCs. So right there, that's this AoE stun that you really need to worry about. You saw him slam the hammer down and it hits a whole area around him. Just never get hit by that, basically, and you'll be fine. And watch out for the same kind of gravity well stuff. I will say, if they do hit you with the gravity well and they're right in your face, they do have the option of pulling out the warhammer and going for that AoE stun. So might not be like in that exact situation. Let's back it up here and just theory crap. It didn't exactly happen that way, but He throws this gravity well out. I did end up going for a post, but if he hits me in this gravity well and let's say my fletch is on cooldown and my riposte is on cooldown, and I'm in a bad spot that we should be avoiding anyway, and he decides to immediately switch to his Warhammer and go for the AoE stun, that if I have decided to pull out my Firestaff and burn out away, which tends to be my go-to when I don't have either of those abilities on off cooldown, then he might hit me with the stun before I create any distance, and I'm going to be stunned right next to him, taking a massive amount of damage. So might be better off to, instead of going for the burnout, to just go for an actual dodge on the stun, or just be ready to dodge whatever he throws at you next instead of going for that burnout, because you really just want to make sure you're not taking that stun hit primarily. That's pretty much it. Because they don't have the hatchet option to use as not only the heal, but it does give you a speed buff, which helps them like run you down. I feel like it's a lot easier. This particular duel, not the best example, because this guy is doing a lot more like lateral movement, and he's not very good at curving his charge. He's like running side to side too much trying to dodge, and he really just needs to like rush me down to apply maximum pressure. Like, he might take one extra hit, but if you're timing your dodges towards me, directly towards me, with when my attacks are coming through, you're completely invulnerable, so you're not going to take any damage when those. So there's no point in like dodging so much to the left and right. You kind of want to use those to get straight forward and close the gap. But yeah, that's a quick one. Let's jump into the last clip I have for you. Alright, so this is a really fun one. This was a 1v2 between me and my boy Captain Crunch. We're fighting against J-Lane and Captain Carl. J-Lane's rocking that god comp of Battle Axe Hatchet. God Carl's running my comp, but he doesn't have it set up properly, and he's a little bit newer at it, so it doesn't seem to be quite as effective. My boy is rocking the Spear Rapier like it was in the clip that I showed you against Spear Rapier. It's the same guy. He's on my team this time though. So you did see me kind of dive in there with the Rapier. In 2v2s or in multi-way fights when you're playing World PvP with teammates, what have you, your only real CC with this build is your riposte. So if you do want to dive in and if you want to like help peel for your teammates, the only way really to do that is to jump in with the Rapier. Like I probably should have done right there, is to help peel for my teammates getting low. I should have jumped in with the Rapier and tried to get a riposte in on J-Lane. But didn't work out that way, so my buddy ends up dying, and I am stuck in a 1v2 situation. Not ideal, but luckily this build is set up nicely for kiting and putting out untraded damage. So our goal here is to try and finish off J-Lane because he is much lower. We do have to, because he's running the hatchet build, he's healing, we have to fight against the healing, and we do have to proc his cheat death before we can actually kill him, so that's kind of annoying. We did proc his cheat death a little bit ago, and it's over. He doesn't have it up, so we do manage to finish him off by curving that burnout. And now it's just a matter of 1v1ing God Carl. I do make a lot of mistakes in this 1v1. I was kind of adrenaline pumped off of getting the equalizer kill, but luckily God Carl being a little bit newer with this setup, he does make a few more mistakes and some bigger mistakes than I do, I would say, and I do manage to clutch this out. Like right there, he could have gotten so much more damage out of that, and I could have been really low, maybe even dead at this point. I also whiffed my fireball right there. Luckily, he just eats my pillar of fire, and then he uses both of his rolls to get away from it. And so when I do this really risky, ill-advised burnout to finish him off, it does manage to finish him off, and he can't evade it. A much better option at the end here. First of all, I should just not pump the fireball in while he has his dodge up. I should try to save that for after, like shoot another attack at him, make him roll, and then instantly fireball, because the fireball is not on your global cooldown, so you can be forcing dodge rolls out with your light and heavy attacks against other ranged users, and then once they roll and you think you've caught them, or they roll twice and they have no more stamina, you can just instantly fireball at them and get almost a guaranteed hit. And so that's probably what I should have done. And then here, luckily he doesn't roll out of the pillar of fire in time, he eats it, and then he double rolls. That having been said, even after I hit the pillar of fire, with him being this low, there's no need to go for a risky burnout play. I should just be like shooting light attacks and staying out of range, and then being ready to dodge whatever he has coming in. Like most importantly, as usual, it's more important to not take damage than it is to dish it out. So getting a little greedy for the kill is a huge bane to this setup. You get over hungry for a kill, especially when you're at low health, it'll come back and bite you in the ass a lot of the time. So you have to be really careful. Yeah, that's about it for the clips. Let's run into the outro. Alright, that's about it for this video, you guys. I hope you enjoyed some of the tips and tricks and common mistakes. Hope you got something out of this. I definitely plan on making more videos about this build, especially once the game fully releases. Get up to higher levels. I really want to find more higher level PvP. This company that I'm in, I'm going to be able to find some of the top PvPers on whatever server we join, and be able to bring you guys some duels against some of the best players of each individual weapon comps. Best Hatchet, Battle Axe player, best this, best that, etc. So definitely a lot more meta to be grinded out. This is a fairly new build for me, obviously, with beta only being open for a few weeks. I only switched to this build towards the end of the beta. I really only have like a few days of experience, but I started to learn a lot in those few days, and so the progression seems to be quick, and I'm having so much fun. So definitely going to put some more videos out like this. If you liked what you saw, feel free to drop a like. If you want to see some of my future content, definitely going to be playing a lot of this game because it's crazy fun and I'm super addicted to it already. I don't know what I'm going to do until it releases. I'm kind of going to lose my mind a little bit, but yeah, thank you so much for watching. My name is Fry, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Peace.